You're hauling 40,000 pounds of cargo through Wyoming at 2 in the morning when the blizzard hits. Not a cute little snowfall. A full whiteout that turns your windshield into static. You think you know what you're doing because you've done this run 100 times. You've got a CB radio. You've got heated seats. You've got a diesel engine that could pull a house off its foundation. You think your truck is a fortress? Wrong. Dead wrong. That $80,000 rig you're sitting in about 6 hours, it's going to be your tomb. And the physics don't care about your years of experience or your clean driving record or how confident you feel right now. Let's talk about the brutal reality nobody mentions at the truck stop. Every year, professional drivers get stranded in conditions that would make most people quit breathing from sheer panic. Ice storms, wildfire evacuations, infrastructure collapse. The difference between the drivers who walk away and the ones who become statistics isn't luck. It's not even preparation, though that helps. It's about understanding which mistakes will absolutely kill you, and which ones your tactical bro buddies at the rest area are feeding you like gospel truth. Because here's the dirty secret of survival on the road. Most of what you think you know is catastrophically wrong, and the clock is already ticking. Your truck has heat, right? You've got a full tank of diesel. You can just idle through whatever Mother Nature throws at you and wait for the cavalry. Cute theory. Let's run the numbers because physics doesn't negotiate. Heavy-duty diesel trucks burn between 0.6 to 0.8 gallons of fuel per hour while idling. And that's without running heat or AC. With accessories running, you're looking at closer to 1 gallon per hour. Sounds manageable until you realize that catastrophic weather events don't last 2 hours. They last 2 days, sometimes 5, sometimes like that nightmare on Interstate 95 in Virginia, where drivers were trapped for 24 hours. It lasts long enough that your fuel situation goes from comfortable to critical, while you're still wondering when the plow trucks are coming. Here's what actually happens with typical commercial truck fuel capacity. If you've got a standard 100-gallon fuel tank and you're burning 1 gallon per hour with heat running, you're looking at roughly 100 hours of idling time maximum. Sounds great, right? Wrong. Most drivers don't start a trip with completely full tanks. You might have half a tank, maybe 3/4. Now you're down to 50-75 hours. And your engine has to work harder in extreme temperatures. When that tank hits empty, you're not in a heated cab anymore. You're in a metal box that conducts cold like it's trying to win an award. The temperature inside your truck will drop to match the outside temperature faster than you think, and in sub-zero conditions. That's a race you don't want to be part of. But wait, you've got blankets, right? Maybe a sleeping bag? Adorable. Let's talk about what hypothermia actually does. Hypothermia is defined as when your core body temperature drops below 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Your body normally maintains around 98.6 degrees, and it burns approximately 2,000 calories a day just to maintain core temperature when you're sitting still in normal conditions. When the mercury drops below freezing, your metabolic rate increases significantly as your body desperately tries to generate heat through shivering and increased metabolism. According to the CDC, hypothermia can occur even at temperatures above 40 degrees Fahrenheit if you're wet or inadequately dressed. In extreme cold below -40 degrees, hypothermia can set in within 10 minutes of exposure. Here's the protocol nobody teaches. You need 3 independent heat sources, and idling your engine is the least reliable of them. Chemical hand warmers, the kind that activate when you crack them, generate heat through exothermic oxidation for up to 18 hours. Each one produces about 130 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not just comfort, that's survival currency. A candle inside a metal can creates enough radiant heat to warm a small space through simple combustion, and it burns for 8 hours on a single wick. Your third source? Your own body, but only if you're feeding it. Which brings us to the second catastrophic mistake. You packed snacks. You've got a bag of chips, maybe some jerky, a couple of protein bars you bought at the last truck stop because they were on sale. You think you're prepared, you're not even close. Let's run the calorie math. because your body doesn't care about convenience or what tasted good at the time. You're burning 4,000 calories a day just trying to not freeze to death. That bag of chips? 360 calories. That protein bar? 200. You've got maybe 1,200 calories worth of food in your entire cab. And you need 4,000 per day to maintain basic metabolic function. This is where the 99% make their fatal error. They pack for convenience, not for catastrophe. They grab whatever is easy, whatever doesn't need cooking, whatever fits in the cup holder. Then they wonder why their body starts cannibalizing muscle tissue after 36 hours. Here's what actual survival rations look like. Peanut butter in plastic jars, 900 calories per cup. Nuts and trail mix, 800 calories per cup. MREs, military meals ready to eat, 1,200 calories per packet, and they last 5 years in any temperature. You need a minimum of 9,000 calories stored in your truck at all times. Not in your lunchbox, in your truck. That's the baseline that keeps you functional when the highway becomes a parking lot. And it's not just about quantity, it's about density and durability. Your cute little sandwich from home? It freezes solid and becomes inedible in sub-zero temperatures. Your fresh fruit? Water content expands, cells rupture, you're left with mush. The food that keeps you alive in a stranded scenario has 3 characteristics: high calorie density, 0 water content, and shelf stability, measured in years, not days. This is why preppers sound insane until you're actually stranded. Then suddenly, their paranoid food caches start looking like strategic genius. But let's say you did everything right with heat and food. You're warm, you're fed, you're feeling pretty good about your chances. Then you need to relieve yourself. This is where things get interesting. And by interesting, I mean potentially lethal. You open that door to step outside. The wind chill is 40 below zero. You're thinking this will take 2 minutes, maybe 3. You can handle that. Wrong again. Frostbite doesn't wait for you to finish your business. At wind chills of -15 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, exposed skin can develop frostbite in 30 minutes or less. At -40 degrees with wind chill, you're looking at frostbite developing in as little as 5 to 10 minutes. Your fingers, your ears, your face. The tissue damage is happening at the cellular level. Ice crystals forming inside your cells, rupturing membranes, killing tissue that will never recover. Frostbite has stages. Frostnip is the mildest form, where skin turns red and feels cold but doesn't cause permanent damage. Superficial frostbite affects the top layers of skin, typically causing blisters within 12 to 36 hours after rewarming. Deep frostbite affects all layers of skin and the tissues below, potentially causing permanent damage and requiring amputation in severe cases. The correct protocol is brutal but necessary. You don't leave the cab. You designate a container, a bucket, a wide-mouth bottle, anything that gives you a sanitation solution that doesn't involve exposing yourself to conditions that can literally freeze your flesh. Is it dignified? No. Does it keep all your fingers attached? Yes. That's the calculation. Your ego versus your extremities. The survivors choose extremities every single time. Now let's talk about the mistake that separates professional drivers from amateurs who just happen to have a CDL. Communication. You've got a cell phone, maybe 2. You think as long as you can call for help, you're covered. Let's discuss how fast that security blanket gets ripped away. Cell towers have backup power, sure, for about 4 to 8 hours. After that, when the grid goes down in a major weather event, your phone becomes a very expensive paperweight. No bars, no data, no emergency services. You're holding a brick that plays music. This is where the CB radio becomes your lifeline. Except most modern drivers don't even turn theirs on anymore. They think it's outdated, full of truckers telling jokes and complaining about dispatchers. But when cell towers die, CB radio is the communication backbone that still functions. It's analog. It's simple. It broadcasts on open frequencies that don't depend on infrastructure. Channel 19 is your emergency broadcast channel. Channel 9 is specifically designated for emergency traffic. These aren't suggestions. They're survival protocols. When you're stranded and your phone is dead, The driver 3 rigs ahead of you with a working CB can relay your position to emergency services through a chain of other drivers who can still transmit. But here's where it gets worse. You didn't tell anyone your route. You just said you were heading west. You'd check in later. Your dispatcher knows roughly where you should be. But rough doesn't help search and rescue when visibility is 0 and there are 200 miles of highway to cover. GPS tracking only works if your truck has power. Your ELD logs show your last known position, but that could be anywhere within a 50-mile radius of where you actually stopped. You've made yourself unfindable, and the people who are supposed to find you are driving blind. The protocol is simple, but most drivers skip it. Text your exact GPS coordinates to 3 people before you lose signal. Not your general direction, your coordinates, latitude and longitude. Copy and paste it from your phone. Send it to your dispatcher. Send it to your emergency contact. Send it to your buddy who drives the same routes. When they don't hear from you for 6 hours, they know exactly where to tell the search teams to look. That 15-second text is the difference between being rescued and being a news story about a body found in spring when the snow melts. Let's pivot to the drivers who aren't professionals. The road trippers, the adventurers, the people who think a full tank and good intentions are enough. You're driving through national forest on a scenic route when your engine coughs once, twice, and dies. You're 20 miles from the last town and 30 miles from the next one. No cell service. No other cars have passed in an hour. You're in what's called a vehicular dead zone, and you've just learned why rental car companies specifically tell you not to take these routes. Here's your first mistake. You tried to push through on fumes because you didn't want to stop at that sketchy gas station 15 miles back. You thought you could make it to the next town. Congratulations. You've just created a survival scenario out of pure stubbornness. Your car is not a base camp. It's a liability. The metal body conducts temperature, the windows leak heat. The seats provide 0 insulation. You're in a vehicle that was designed for motion, not shelter. When that motion stops, your survivability clock starts ticking. And you've got fewer resources than you think. Second mistake. You didn't pack a survival kit because you weren't planning to need one. Nobody plans to need one. That's why it's called an emergency. The people who survive unexpected disasters aren't lucky. They're prepared for scenarios they hoped would never happen. Your trunk should have 10 pounds of gear you pray you never touch. Emergency blankets that weigh 2 ounces but reflect 90% of body heat. A first aid kit that includes trauma supplies, not just band-aids. A flashlight with backup batteries, water purification tablets, and enough non-perishable food to sustain 2 people for 72 hours. Not because you're going on a camping trip. Because your scenic drive just became a survival situation and the park rangers won't find you until someone reports you missing. Third mistake. You stayed with your car when you should have stayed with your car. Sounds contradictory, but hear this clearly. If you're on a traveled road, even a rural one, you stay with your vehicle. It's a visual marker that's easier to spot than a human being. It provides shelter, even minimal shelter. It has reflective surfaces and metal that can signal aircraft. But, and this is critical, you stay visible to the road, not inside with the doors locked. Outside with hazard lights on, with reflective triangles placed 300 feet behind your vehicle. With anything bright or reflective, you can find displayed where passing traffic can see it. The people who die in these scenarios, they stay inside their car with the doors locked because they're scared of wildlife or strangers. They make themselves invisible to the only people who can help them. The correct protocol is uncomfortable but effective. You stay near your vehicle, you make yourself visible, you conserve energy, and you wait for help while maintaining enough body heat to function. You don't wander off looking for help unless you can see your destination, because the wilderness doesn't care about your sense of direction or your confidence. It will kill you with exposure in 8 hours. Now let's talk about the one mistake that kills more drivers than all the others combined. Trusting your vehicle more than physics. Your truck has 4-wheel drive, right? All-terrain tires, maybe even chains. You think that means you can handle anything. Flash flooding on the highway. ice covering the road at a 15-degree angle, mudslides that turn pavement into a slip and slide. You think traction solves everything. Here's the physics lesson. 6 inches of moving water can sweep a vehicle off the road. 12 inches of water will float most cars. 2 feet of rushing water can move a semi-truck. Your 4-wheel drive means nothing when your tires aren't touching anything solid. Drivers die every single year because they see water on the road and they think they can make it through. They think the road is still there under the water, solid and stable. Sometimes it is. Sometimes the water has undermined the pavement, created sinkholes, washed away the road entirely and replaced it with nothing. You don't know which situation you're in until your front tires drop into a void and water starts pouring through your door seals. At that point, you have approximately 90 seconds to get out before the electrical system shorts and your power windows stop working. Your truck becomes a sealed metal container filling with water, and you're the contents. The protocol is absolute. You do not drive through standing water if you cannot see the bottom. You do not drive through moving water, period. You don't care how late you are, how important the delivery is, how much your dispatcher is going to yell at you. You turn around, you find an alternate route, you accept the delay. Because the alternative is drowning in your cab while your cargo floats away, and no load is worth that kind of permanent. Here's the scenario nobody prepares for, but everyone should. You're driving through wildfire country in late summer. The sky has that orange tint, that hazy quality that tells you something is burning. But it's not close, right? The fire is miles away. You can see the smoke but not the flames. You're just passing through. Then the wind shifts. Suddenly smoke is everywhere. Visibility drops to nothing, and you realize you're driving blind through an active fire zone. You can't see the road, you can't see other vehicles, and the temperature inside your cab is climbing even with the AC on full blast. Let me be crystal clear about what every fire safety authority from CAL FIRE to FEMA will tell you. The absolute best survival strategy is to evacuate immediately when authorities issue warnings. Don't debate it. Don't evaluate whether you think you can make it through. Don't wait to see how bad it gets. When evacuation orders come, you leave. Because the leading cause of wildfire deaths is people who wait too long, thinking their vehicle moves faster than fire. It doesn't. Wildfires leapfrog and hopscotch across terrain, suddenly blocking routes that were clear minutes before. But if you find yourself trapped, if the fire moved faster than predicted or the wind shifted unexpectedly, here's the official protocol that can save your life. First, understand this. Your vehicle, even your massive semi-truck, provides significantly more protection than being outside on foot. The steel body shields you from radiant heat and burning embers. Do not, under any circumstances, abandon your vehicle to run. You cannot outrun a wildfire on foot. This is not a movie. Your tires might explode from the heat. The temperature inside will become uncomfortable. You might see smoke entering through vents. Stay inside anyway. If you're still driving when visibility drops, drive slowly with your headlights and hazard lights on. Watch for other vehicles, pedestrians, and wildlife fleeing the fire. If smoke becomes too thick to see through, stop immediately. Do not try to push through zero visibility. The crashes during wildfire evacuations kill more people than the flames do. Park your vehicle away from heavy vegetation, ideally in a cleared area like a parking lot, on the roadway itself or in a driveway. Avoid areas with dense trees and brush that will fuel the fire. Once stopped, follow this exact sequence. Keep your engine running if possible, as it may not restart after the fire passes due to heat damage to electrical systems. Roll up all windows completely. Close all air vents and set your air conditioning to recirculate mode. This keeps smoke and carbon monoxide out as long as possible. Turn on your headlights and hazard flashers so firefighters and rescue teams can locate you in heavy smoke. Call 911 immediately. Give them your exact location, but understand that emergency response may be delayed or impossible depending on fire conditions. Here's the critical part. Get below window level. Lie down on the floor of your cab. The radiant heat from approaching flames is intense enough to shatter glass and cause serious burns to anyone at window height. Your floor position provides maximum protection from this heat. Cover yourself with a wool blanket or jacket if you have one. Wool is crucial here, not synthetic materials. Wool resists ignition and doesn't melt like synthetics do. If you don't have wool, use cotton. Never use synthetic fabrics. They'll melt onto your skin. Do not wet the fabric. The intense heat will turn water to steam, which causes worse burns than dry fabric. Some drivers carry N95 masks specifically for this scenario. Wildfire smoke contains particulate matter small enough to penetrate deep into your lungs and enter your bloodstream. An N95 mask provides significant protection. If you don't have one, cover your nose and mouth with dry cloth. It's not as effective, but it's better than nothing. Stay calm. The fire front, the actual advancing line of flames, typically passes in 10 to 30 minutes. Yes, it will be terrifying. Yes, the temperature inside your vehicle will spike. Yes, you might see flames surrounding you, but the steel body of your vehicle, while it will get hot, provides critical insulation. Metal gas tanks and fuel containers rarely explode despite what Hollywood has taught you. Your biggest danger is smoke inhalation and radiant heat, both of which you're minimizing by staying low and keeping windows closed. Once the main fire front passes and you can see that flames have moved past your location, assess your situation carefully. The temperature outside may still be extreme. Watch for falling trees, downed power lines, and hot spots that can flare up. If your vehicle is still operational, drive out slowly and carefully. Keep your headlights on. If you encounter injured people or active burning that fire personnel haven't addressed, call it in immediately. The psychology here is brutal but necessary. Every instinct will scream at you to get out, to run, to do something active, resist. Your survival depends on staying put, staying low, and waiting for the fire to pass. Emergency services know people get trapped in vehicles during wildfires. They're looking for you, your hazard lights, your vehicle itself. These are signals. Give them time to reach you. The difference between survivors and casualties in vehicle entrapment scenarios is almost always whether they stayed inside or tried to flee on foot. Let's circle back to something every driver forgets until it matters. Your health is infrastructure. You're running on 4 hours of sleep, 6 cups of coffee, and convenience store food that's 80% sodium and sugar. You think you're fine because you feel fine. Then you're stranded for 36 hours in stressful conditions, and suddenly your body presents you with the bill: chest pain, difficulty breathing, the early warning signs of a cardiac event that you're now experiencing in a location where emergency medical services can't reach you for hours. This is the invisible killer in survival scenarios. It's not the cold or the hunger or the isolation. It's the underlying health conditions that manifest under stress. Drivers with undiagnosed diabetes suddenly dealing with blood sugar crashes. Drivers with high blood pressure experiencing stroke symptoms. Drivers who ignored that persistent cough that's now pneumonia in a freezing cab. Your medical preparedness is as important as your gear. And most drivers have neither. The minimum medical kit for your truck isn't a box of Band-Aids. It's a trauma kit with hemostatic gauze for severe bleeding, a tourniquet for arterial wounds, and actual medications, not just pain relievers. You need your prescription medications for at least 7 days stored in your vehicle at all times, not in your luggage. You need a blood pressure cuff if you have hypertension. You need glucose tablets if you have diabetes. You need an EpiPen if you have severe allergies. Because when you're stranded, "I'll get that next time" becomes, "I'm going to die from a preventable medical emergency." And here's the reality nobody wants to hear. If you have a serious medical condition and you're driving through remote areas, you need to carry instructions for whoever finds you. A medical information card in your wallet, laminated and current. That tells first responders exactly what's wrong with you and exactly what medications you're on. Because when they pull you out of that truck and you're unconscious, they need to know if you're diabetic or epileptic or allergic to penicillin. They need to know in the first 60 seconds, not after they've already administered the drug that's going to kill you. Now let's address the psychological component that separates survivors from casualties. You've been stranded for 12 hours. The initial adrenaline has worn off. The reality is setting in that help isn't coming quickly. Your mind starts playing games. You start thinking about walking out, trying to find help, doing something instead of sitting here waiting. This is your brain's panic response, trying to override your rational survival instinct. This is where people die. The survival statistics are clear. Staying with your vehicle significantly increases your chances of survival and rescue. Search and rescue experts consistently advise that vehicles are easier to spot than individuals, both from the air and from the ground. Your vehicle provides shelter, contains supplies, and serves as a clear marker for rescuers. The tragic case of James Kim, who left his stranded vehicle in Oregon's mountains to seek help while his family stayed behind, illustrates this principle. His wife and daughters survived 9 days in the vehicle and were rescued. Kim died after leaving the vehicle on foot. Most survival and emergency management authorities agree that unless you are absolutely certain of a nearby destination and the conditions are safe for travel, staying with your vehicle is the correct decision. The protocol is counterintuitive. You do nothing. You conserve energy. You maintain body heat, you ration your supplies, and you wait. Because search and rescue teams are looking for your vehicle, not for a human dot somewhere in the wilderness. They have the technology to spot a metal car or truck from the air. They don't have the technology to spot you after you've walked 3 miles into the forest and collapsed from exhaustion. Every survival expert will tell you the same thing. Stay put, stay visible, stay alive. But staying put requires mental discipline that most people don't have. You're bored, you're uncomfortable, you're scared. Your brain wants stimulation, wants action, wants to feel like you're doing something productive. This is where survival becomes a mental game. You need to occupy your mind without depleting your physical resources. You inventory your supplies. You plan your next 24 hours in detail. You set small goals. Stay warm for the next hour. Ration food for the next day. Keep the interior of your vehicle organized and functional. These aren't busy work tasks. They're mental anchors that keep you from spiraling into panic or rash decisions. The drivers who survive extended stranding situations share one characteristic. They accepted their situation quickly and adapted their behavior to maximize their survival chances. They didn't waste energy on anger or frustration about being stuck. They didn't spend hours trying to call for help on a dead phone. They assessed their resources, made a plan, and executed that plan with discipline. That's the difference between a victim and a survivor. Victims fight their circumstances. Survivors adapt to their circumstances. Here's the final mistake, and it's the one that compounds all the others. You didn't practice. You think having gear means you're prepared. You're not prepared until you've used that gear in realistic conditions. You've got a fire starter in your emergency kit? Have you ever started a fire with it in wind, in rain? With cold fingers, you've got an emergency blanket? Have you ever actually wrapped yourself in one and tested how much warmth it actually provides? You've got MREs stored in your truck? Have you ever eaten one cold? Because heating them requires resources you might not have. The tactical bros love to talk about gear. They'll debate the specs of different flashlights for 3 hours. But gear doesn't save you. Skills save you. Knowledge saves you. The muscle memory of having done something before under stress saves you. When you're in an actual emergency, you don't have time to read instructions or figure out how something works. You need to operate on autopilot, your hands doing what they've done before while your brain focuses on staying calm and making good decisions. The protocol here is simple but requires effort. Once a year, before winter, you spend 3 hours testing your emergency kit. You set up in your driveway or a parking lot and you simulate being stranded. You try to start a fire with your fire starter. You eat a cold MRE. You wrap yourself in your emergency blanket and sit still for 30 minutes to understand what that actually feels like. You practice using your CB radio to call for help. You time how long your phone battery lasts with the screen on. You discover what works, what doesn't work. And what you've been telling yourself works but is actually useless. Because here's the truth. Every single item of survival gear has a failure point. Fire starters don't work when they're wet. Emergency blankets tear if you're not careful. MRE heaters require water that you might not have. Your backup flashlight has batteries that corroded because you forgot to check them. Your first aid kit has medications that expired 2 years ago. You don't discover these failures in your driveway. That's the whole point. You discover them when the consequences are low and you have time to fix them. Then, when you actually need them, they work. Let's bring this full circle with the scenario that started this whole conversation. You're in your truck, you're in a blizzard, you're stranded. You've got maybe 6 hours before the situation becomes critical. What do? You don't panic, you assess. You inventory your resources: fuel, food, water, heat sources, communication equipment. You make a plan for the next 24 hours based on worst-case assumptions. You're not getting rescued today, maybe not tomorrow. You plan for 72 hours because that's the realistic timeline for major weather events. You shut off your engine and start using your chemical heat sources. You ration your food to 600 calories every 8 hours, enough to maintain function without depleting your supply. You drink water regularly because dehydration in cold weather happens faster than you think. You use your CB radio every hour to broadcast your position and status. You maintain your mental discipline by setting a schedule. Check supplies, adjust clothing layers, monitor weather, rest, repeat. You don't make big decisions when you're tired or cold or hungry. You wait until you're in the best mental state you can achieve under the circumstances. And most importantly, you trust the protocol. You trust that staying with your vehicle is the right decision, even when every instinct is screaming to do something else. You trust that conserving energy is more valuable than expending it on futile activity. You trust that the people looking for you will find you if you give them enough time and don't make yourself impossible to find. This is what separates amateur hour from professional survival: the ability to trust your training over your emotions. So here's your checklist, the one that actually keeps you alive. Every commercial driver, every long-haul trucker, every road tripper crossing remote areas needs to read this, memorize this, and implement this before they turn the key. Because the time to prepare for disaster is before you're in one. And these aren't suggestions, they're requirements written in the blood of people who learned these lessons too late. Item 1. 9,000 calories of non-perishable, high-density food stored in your vehicle permanently. Not in rotation with your lunch. Not, I'll pick some up next time. Right now, today, before your next trip. Item 2. 3 independent heat sources that don't require your engine. Chemical warmers, candles, and insulated gear that's actually rated for the temperatures you might face. Item 3. A communication system that works when infrastructure fails. CB radio, fully functional, on your dashboard, tested monthly. Item 4. Medical supplies that match your actual health needs, plus trauma supplies for injuries. Item 5. A water supply of 3 gallons per person minimum, plus purification tablets. Item 6. A detailed route plan sent to 3 people with GPS coordinates. Item 7. Emergency blankets, sleeping bag rated for below 0 temperatures, and extra clothing stored in your cab. Item 8. Flashlights, batteries, and backup power sources that are checked and rotated every 6 months. That's the gear. Now here's the knowledge. Know how hypothermia progresses and how to treat it. Know how frostbite presents and how to prevent it. Know what dehydration looks like in cold weather, because it's not what you think. Know how to signal for help using your vehicle's resources. Know the difference between when to stay and when to go. And are on the side of staying. Know your vehicle's fuel consumption rate at idle so you can calculate your thermal timeline. Know basic first aid beyond apply pressure and hope. Know how to start a fire in adverse conditions. Know how to ration supplies when you don't know how long you'll need them. And finally, know this. The mistakes that kill people in survival situations aren't exotic or complicated. They're mundane. They're the result of overconfidence, lack of preparation, and the assumption that it won't happen to me. Every person who's died in a stranded vehicle thought they were fine, right up until they weren't. Every person who walked away from their car looking for help thought they knew what they were doing. Every person who ran out of fuel thought they had enough to make it. They were all wrong, and they all paid the price. You don't have to be one of them. You can be the driver who gets stranded and walks away 3 days later with a good story and all your fingers intact. You can be the road tripper who survives an unexpected emergency because you had the right gear and the right knowledge. You can be the professional who understands that your real job isn't delivering cargo, it's delivering cargo and yourself safely. And sometimes the second part requires sacrificing the first. The physics are simple, the biology is straightforward, the survival protocols work if you follow them. The only variable is you, your preparation, your discipline, your willingness to take this seriously before you're in a situation where it matters. Because nobody plans to become a survival statistic, but every single survival statistic used to be someone who thought they'd be fine. Don't be fine, be prepared. The difference between those two states is measured in degrees Fahrenheit, miles from help, and whether anyone knows where to look for your body. Your truck cost $80,000. Your life is worth more than that. Act like it. Prepare like it. Survive like it. Because the highway doesn't care about your confidence or your experience or your expensive rig. It will kill you the moment you stop respecting what physics and weather can do to an unprepared human. And when that happens, when you're sitting in a dead truck in a blizzard with your fuel running low and your supplies running out, you'll remember this. You'll remember that someone told you exactly what would happen and exactly how to prevent it. The question is whether you'll remember it too late or just in time. Make it just in time.